Start.
Just read Meridian and
Fire now.
Be Meridian. If they're still active shooting, we'll take the Bearcat, head that way.
39.
Upper Sioux, it's going to be Locust Grove and U-Stick, and they just put out a shot flyer, just so you know, on the route.
This is the 1032 podcast, where we interview experts in firearms and training with law enforcement, military, and competitive shooting backgrounds. All right, I got another guest here, a good friend of mine, Bennie Cooley. How you doing, Bennie?
Good, man. It's good to be here. Finally, be able to sit down and visit for a little while.
Yeah, I have been really excited to try to get you on here, and most of the guys that I've had on my podcast are friends of mine, and I consider you a good friend and a mentor. You know, back in the day, in the early 90s when I got into law enforcement, I started going to those MSTOA conferences out in Idaho Falls that you guys used to host out there at the DOE facility. And I met you and Pete and a couple other guys, and I was just like, man, those guys are awesome. These guys know their tactics. These guys can shoot. And especially back in the day, you guys were 10 years ahead of everybody else back in the day.
We were pretty fortunate, with the facilities we had and the freedoms we had to be able to train. So, yeah, we was able to take advantage of it, and so it was a good time.
Yeah, the Department of Energy has a lot of money, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Or they can at times, right? So, yeah, and not the same responsibilities as what you find your regular.
So tell me kind of how you got started. I mean, I know you have a tactical background from being on a SRT unit to you won world championships in 3-gun, pistol, some long-range stuff. And start us out. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got started with DOE.
Yeah, so, growing up in the southeastern side of the state, Idaho Falls area, in DOE, they started a big hire out there, and at the time, I was actually sheared sheep. You know, that's what my dad did.
You were a sheep rancher, huh?
Well, not rancher. We went around and sheared everybody else's sheep, right?
Okay.
So it was great work. I loved it. I loved hard work and the ethics at top, but it was so seasonal that I wanted to get something more stable. And DOE started, hiring people, and they talked about rappelling out helicopters, shooting guns, and blowing stuff up, right? So I thought, well, that'd be kind of cool, right? It was not my intention to stay there long term. It's, the hard part about the DOE system is being able to get the, TS clearances and stuff like that. And I thought, I'd try this for a while. If it didn't work out, I'd go someplace else within that system at the Idaho National Laboratory. But anyway, when I got out there, in 1984, I applied and got out there and actually fell in love with it. Tried out for the special response team, and our organization, we at the time we had 4 12-man teams, so 48 people was what we tried to adhere to. And the guys the gentlemen who started our organization, Doug Pechtel, John Jones, and then they were both from the unit back in Fort Bragg, and they actually came out, retired from there, and came out and started an organization there, and just kind of mimic the selection process and some of the training and stuff like that. So we're just lucky. I mean, have somebody from a tier 1 background, their leadership and what they taught us how to do and how to be able to train and perceive life and stuff like that was really just invaluable at the time. And still is, right? I carry a lot of those things that they taught me as kind of contribute to my success in my career. But got out, tried on for SRT, was able to make it through there, and spent about 15 years on team, and then...
and SRT stands for Special Response Team, for those who don't know, right?
Yeah,
SWAT, basically.
Everything from a assault team leader, basically like a sergeant status, lieutenant status, a team leader, did the long gun portion of the job, and explosive breaching, I really like that a lot. Miss doing that on a daily basis and stuff, but it was really good to be able to do all those things. And so I was able to train with different organizations, and again with the leadership that we had from the military. At times we could go back and use some of their facilities at different locations, military facilities across the U.S. and train with those guys. So it was good because it allowed us to be able to see things from a different environment. I would say we were too hard in the military side of it to where we crossed more with law enforcement or use of force and how we approach targets and problems and situations and how to solve them. But when we started blending in the law enforcement side, it made us much better, more rounded, I guess you could say. And then we all had specialties, and everything from reconnaissance to driving, long gunning, to just shooting in itself. So we figured the best way to be able to do that is they developed a shooting team, which I tried out for and really liked. At the time, they had at the National Training Center, they had a DOE Small Arms Tournament. So all the DOE folks across the nation would come there and have a big shooting contest, championship down there. And first time I went down there, I actually won the rifle division, won an
Nice.
H&K, which I really regret that I sold that gun. But anyway, yeah, that kind of got me hooked, and I loved it because it tied into our jobs and everything. It's crazy, you talk about evolution. When we first started, we did what the military was doing at that point, and we were point shooting.
Yeah.
It was the thing to do, and crazy as it can be, what changed everything, came over here to a match in Nampa, Idaho, and
It's like a USPSA match.
I watched a master class shooter by the name of Jim Wall.
Jim Wall's a good guy,
Yeah,
isn't he?
he is a great dude, and a hell of a shooter. He works. I think he's VP of Milt Sparks.
Correct.
Tactical. Yeah, just a great guy. And I watched him shoot this stage of fire, and like an idiot, I walked up to him and was like, "Man, did you see your sights at all?" I mean, that's like, he kind of looked at me like, "You idiot." It's like, yeah, I saw my sights because we were just point shooting. I remember the rest of the team was farther down in a couple of different bays, like about 50 yards from us.
Yeah.
I literally ran down, got the team together, brought him up, and then we started watching him shoot. And it's like, wow, are we missing the boat, man? It's like,
Yeah.
we just didn't know any better. We thought, you can't see your sights doing it, shooting that fast.
So Jim Wall had a big influence on you.
Well, yeah, he made us look at us like, oh, okay, we're missing the boat here. I mean, this can be done, right? This individual just showed us. And so anyway, on the shooting team, they paid the bill to be able to go out and compete against some of the best shooters in the world, and we were able to learn those things. We had at the time Doug Ivanzik. He was with Savannah. He was that's where he was back there in Savannah, working with the DOE system there. And he came out to Idaho, and he was basically a grandmaster shooter. Did a lot of handgun shooting, stuff like that. And he propelled our program quite a bit on the shooting itself.
Love that guy. He's a good man.
Specifically with the handgun and stuff like that. And so going around, I started competing. I really loved it. It tied into our job. I was able to take those tools and bring them back into our organization and stuff. And what was really cool is after a while, I started working where the military started reaching out to me. So I was actually going back teaching the guys that taught us, right?
Yeah.
Which was cool. It was very rewarding to be able to do those things. And competition to me is a true measure. It's actually the only measure. I mean, where you're room clearing, where you're taking down a building structure, you're on the range, you're always competing for time, how efficiently did we flow, can we do it better? It's all based on a standard, right? So the competition world really propelled our shooting and how we applied it to our work, and it changed everything.
So what was it, do you think, that you said the military reached out to you and had you train them or come out and train with them? What was it that you think made them ask you to come out?
Well, you got to prove yourself first. So I think it was after I'd won world championship down in Las Vegas, SOF. I'd also won 2 U.S. national championships through gun. And so after you kind of proven yourself, right? Because some of the guys I was going to teach, I mean, they're, the best shooters in the world as far as the military organization. And, having that background, I'd been doing a bunch of teaching prior to that with law enforcement and civilian. I love teaching civilians, because they're, I'd always go to these different places, and, people I knew from the shooting, law enforcement, they'd organize the class, and you have some civilian out there trying to teach them to be able to protect themselves, understand deadly force, and do all that stuff. And then it just kind of blossomed from there into law enforcement. And then actually one of our commanders was back at Bragg at the time and said, hey, you probably should look at bringing him out. And so I went out there with their selection and training unit, and then went from there and started working with different groups and different squadrons.
Yeah, I've talked to a few military guys, and when they start talking about rifle shooting, their name always comes up.
Yeah, it's been an e-ticket ride.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel so privileged to be able to help them, and what they don't understand, you get the younger guys and out there who are very seasoned within the units, they work with and everything else, but they actually propelled me right in the beginning. If I wouldn't have had that military style leadership, that would guided me when I was a young man, I don't think I would have been able to reach the level I was been able to achieve, right? And I'm still seeking after.
Yeah.
We did everything from, just handgun, 3-gun stuff. Love the long gun. I'm into the long gun a lot right now. Do a lot of what's the NRL Hunter series, which is, basically you have weight restrictions on your guns. Your targets are unknown. You got to find them. You're in the mountains, in the field. It's a good application, especially for military, just because, doing things on the fly. And PRS is a great too, but it's more a niche, right, where you have specific guns that you would never use except for that. And, going down that road is, where you get the skill sets and the learning and stuff like that, it doesn't cross over quite as well as like the NRL Hunter, in my opinion. But they're both great shooting disciplines, just like it is when you go out and shoot a USPSA match or a 3-gun match. And it pays dividends.
Put that on pause. I want to get into the NRL Hunter stuff here. Can you back up a little bit and tell us what is it that an SRT team does?
Yeah. I mean, it's like we're a little bit different than what you would consider law enforcement. Our threats are different. We, I always compare it as like law enforcement is always undermanned, underpaid. Don't have a big pool of people to draw from for SWAT teams, stuff like that, where we have a big budget. But let me back up. But law enforcement does everything, right?
Sure.
I mean, you guys just get multitasked with everything. Where the SRT DOE systems is, we're kind of that last resort for some of the things that we're trying to protect, and the special response team is kind of you could say like a paramilitary. So we use military, belt-fed weapons, explosives, different things like that you'd see in some small military units would use that law enforcement doesn't have a need for. Yeah. But we train, when I started out, we trained 24/7. And what I really liked about it, the philosophy is we were never good enough. Literally, like we were trained 24/7. We always thought we could do better. And I remember when we first worked with some pretty squared away military units that came out, used our facility where we'd set up training for them so they could just, do their stuff and then leave and stuff. I kind of was surprised at how well we paired up to them, right? But then when you look at it, is our mission was much smaller, right? We don't have to worry about jumping out of airplanes and infiltrating countries and trying to get out of countries that are not friendly to us. And so the things that we had to do, we got really good at. And it was that drive of that we can always do it better. We can always be better at what we're doing.
And so when you're not training, you're doing, you have responses?
Yeah, most of the time, you have your responses and stuff like that. But you could kind of base it down to like a beefed up patrol unit, right? That they'd be available. Now it's kind of transitioned where we don't have the luxury because of the different targets and the things that are going on you have within the DOE structure we have to protect is, it's harder to train the 24/7, but we do a lot of training, and we're always trying to sharpen the sword. And we have a lot of terrain that we have to be able to cover. At the Idaho National Laboratory, we're over 900 square miles.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of ground, a lot of different things that you have to stay on top of.
One of the things, the time that I was on team there, one of the things that, I hear a lot of people talking about that I like that they did while we were there or while I was there is the accountability. Like when you're in a shoot house, right? You miss that target, you're no longer on the team.
Yeah, you're gone. And that's through selection, which is important, right? Any major safety violations, there's no get out of jail free card. It's like, love you to death, dude, but you got to go away. Sorry. And there's some people,
tough, wasn't it?
And it helps. You got to hold that standard because it's your people. You can take any weapon system out there is not going to win the fight for you, right? It's the people, how they, their philosophy and training and how they see things and solve problems, and those are what you're looking for. But yeah, it's a very high standard. they hold. So that pressure going through class, going through selection process is important. And what I really liked about it is you're always being looked at, right? It's never a free pass once you're there. Like the old saying, the rent truly is due every day.
When you went through selection, what was your selection like?
Going through selection, it was a lot more individual skills when I first went through. We went through a 4-day program before we got selected, and then it was a basic 800-hour process to go through to start getting trained up before we get put on team. And then what really propelled us is they had a block 160 hours of leadership training and instructor training you had to do too.
Yeah, but to be able to get to that selection course, isn't there like a tryout that you guys have to do?
Yeah. It's a 4-day tryout.
Like a 26-mile course or something?
I don't know how far it was. It's forever, right? It's just like they push you to see. What I really liked is they push you to see, how you're going to handle problems when you're under stress, when you're tired. How's your problem thinking ability? Can you reason? Can you stand behind the decisions that you make? There was a lot of problem solving that once you did the oral board right at the end of the training or the selection process, if you were lucky enough to make it that far, is there was no right or wrong, right? But you didn't know that as a candidate, right? It didn't matter what answer you had, you were going to get hit to be able to defend it and make sure you had sound reasoning to defend it. And would you defend it, or were you easy to be rolled over, right?
Yeah.
So that process was pretty stressful, I guess you could say, because you never knew. You had there was no clue or indicator that am I doing it good or am I doing it bad, and that's one of the things that was kind of unnerving when I went to some of the tier 1 military units or some of the soft teams, is you could be teaching them to say the most greatest thing in the world. They'd have the same look on their faces if you just said the stupidest thing in the world, right? I mean, it's just no emotion out there, right?
Yeah.
And so it's hard to read, but that kept you guessing, that kept you on your toes. So,
So, go into a little bit how you started. Do you remember winning your first nationals?
I do. I remember really it was the one I remember the most. My first world championship down in Vegas, and
And that was SOF?
Yeah, it was SOF, which, I mean, it was a phenomenal match. It was, a 3-gun based match. They always had the theme on some war that happened or some battle in the, different stages, but you couldn't walk anything through. There was no walk down of any of the stages, so it was all blind, which I think was a benefit for me and my background.
Yeah.
Because we were used to doing that. You go into a shoot house, it's like you have no clue where the targets are, what target you need to engage. You're looking for threats and stuff like that. So your ability to break that down in a timely manner, it was proved to be more benefit. And it was the last stage. It was a shotgun stage where you had to run up this little ravine and stuff and shoot these targets that were hidden. You didn't know how many and where they were and stuff. And I remember Bruce Pyatt, he's won multiple times. Great New Jersey police officer, just a really good dude. And Jim Clark, Jr., I knew it was close because they were coming over to watch me, right? And they were timing me. And anyway, when I got done, I distinctively remember the prop I was shooting on, the shotgun I was shooting, the targets I was engaging on that last stage, because that won the match for me, right?
Yeah.
Came back and they're like, "You got it." It's like, it was kind of like surreal, right? And then after that, things just kind of, I don't know, I think my confidence level, everything else just kind of jumped. And I knew how to train, what to train. I was willing to do the training. I was willing to put in that extra effort. It's people always say, "Oh, yeah, you're so lucky. You've been all over the United States training and doing all this stuff." And it's like, yep, I've seen every gravel pit in the United States, right? It's like, it's not like it's some PGA golf course you're going to, right?
Yeah. The ranges are not. My wife says,
Yeah.
I'd come watch you shoot if your shooting ranges look like a golf course.
Yeah, exactly, right? And I learned how to train with sometimes little to no props, right?
Yeah.
It just, there's things that you can do and be willing to push, and I think that was a big thing for me, that I had an advantage because of the training I went through.
So when you were up and coming, What's the most you ever shot in a year? How many rounds of ammunition?
Oh man, not enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It was sometimes you'll see some people that say, yeah, I shot like 50,000 rounds or 60,000 rounds. It's like it doesn't happen very often. Now, if I include my work, there's a lot. So I mean, to give you an idea, our annual budget back when I was on the team when we first started was 1.2 million rounds for 48 guys.
For the SWAT team,
the SWAT
1.2
team.
million rounds?
Yeah, and we shot it.
That's a pretty good
Right.
budget.
Yeah. So, and we shot it, but the volume didn't really make us that much better, right? Because we didn't know what we were doing at the time. We were doing the best we knew how, and what was getting handed down to us. But, I'd say, it's not uncommon on the 3-gun stuff. You would shoot, 3,000 rounds of shotgun, 4,000 rounds, something like that. The handgun would be much higher. A handgun would be around 15, 20,000. And then rifle about 5,000, 6,000 rounds. And that'd be a hard year, because you're practicing precision and stuff like that, not trying to burn your rifles up. And, you take a lot of things that you have from the handgun and transition and use that flow into the different weapon systems. But it's hard to stay on top of 3 guns, be proficient with it, and then also to keep them running. I mean, that's one thing I was really good at is I was very consistent in the matches. I knew how to keep my gear running. I saw a lot of top shooters that lost world and championships, national championships, because they couldn't keep their guns running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Especially, it seemed like back in the 90s, early 2000s, a lot of things I don't think had been perfected, like springs. Especially 2011s. I mean, they used to be very, very high maintenance guns, and that's what everybody wanted to run. But
didn't exist, And the thing is too is like I see like when I'm working with groups and stuff like that, is inherently they're not good at clearing malfunctions, and no fault to their own. That's kind of a compliment to the technology we developed, is because the guns run better. Back in the day, like you were talking about, we didn't have that same technology. For mass production, for bringing in like 60, 70 guns and stuff like that and trying to keep them maintained.
Like an STI from, the late 90s is not the same thing as what, which is now staccato today. The reliability is so night and day.
Yeah, completely.
You had to really set
across
them
the board.
Custom shop, have them fine-tuned, and then the maintenance was still high.
Yeah, you're trying to push it in the competition, driving a Formula One race car, because everything's an advantage, right? And then sometimes those people who had the problems with their gun chamois, they were taking it too far, right?
Yeah.
That little bit that they were pushing gave them exposure to the malfunctions and problems, and it just wasn't worth the gain, right? The juice wasn't worth the squeeze, basically.
Getting a little warm in here, huh?
Yeah.
And you can prop that open unless the guys are running up and down the hallway.
No problem.
Yeah, you can prop that open. I don't mind a little background noise here and there.
Yeah, because you got the 80 count of these SWAT guys in here doing a bunch of training, right?
Yeah, we're here at the school that I work security at, and Ada County SWAT guys like to come borrow the building every now and then, especially when it's vacant.
Yeah, it's
like right
awesome
now.
to see those guys out here doing that,
Yeah, it's great. That's
working
one
the
thing
drills and stuff.
I like. I've been able to keep that relationship with with our SWAT guys, and they'll come over and do some training, and in turn the admin and a lot of the parents, they like to know that the police have that relationship with us here.
Yeah, cool.
So what is your most memorable, 3-gun match, as far as maybe something that you won?
Wow.
I do have a story. I remember, I used to shoot a lot of 3-gun back in the day, and of course I never got to a, Bennie Cooley status, but I quit shooting actually because I had tendonitis so bad, so I kind of had to stop shooting. I really had to back off on that.
That's hard to get over too.
But the last time I went to 3-gun nationals, and I know I've told you this story, and you're just like shake your head like that wasn't me. But I remember one time I was down at nationals down in Vegas, and Benny was there shooting, and Benny goes, "Hey, let me know how I did, because I have to leave before the award ceremony. I got to get back." And anyway, award ceremonies come out. I called Benny and go, "Hey, Benny, you got second place." And I think Kelly Neal, I think, won first that year. He's like, "Okay, thanks for letting me know." He's like, "How'd you do?" And I was really proud of myself, just so you know. I go, I was 29th place. He's like, his response on the end of the phone is like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I'm just like, I know he probably doesn't remember that, but I do because it hurt my
I
feelings.
don't remember that, man. I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't.
No, it didn't really hurt my feelings. I was just laughing. I was just laughing because I thought.
I know you can do better than that,
but,
though.
But
That's the
that
deal,
was the
man.
difference
So,
between.
yeah. I believe in you, brother.
World champions and not world champions. But that was the best I'd ever done at a major match, and I was just like, I was pretty proud of myself. But he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." But Benny, you've had a big influence on the law enforcement community, military community, and I know for me a big influence. And I've been to several of your classes, trained with you. You were one of my trainers when I was on the team out there, and I left the team out there for DOE, came to Ada County, and just like I was telling the guys earlier when we were in there talking to them, is they probably have no idea the things that I was trying to pass on to everybody else here as an instructor came from you. And so you've had a big influence. And I know Jared Myers, one of the main trainers there as well, and same thing, he's been to some of your classes. And, we all try to emulate Bennie Cooley just because, you won these world championships and your techniques are proven. And so those things, we've passed them on to a lot of guys in this valley.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. And, I'm just passing on the things that were given to me, right? Things that also, a few things I've been able to perfect on my own, but they were always inspired by other shooters or people that, people always think, it's got to be a top guy you're learning from. But I mean, I've watched shooters that, that I've been able to beat regularly at matches. And
Well, it must be time for school to be out.
freedom.
There you go.
That's freedom right there. But yeah, it's, and I always learn things. People think, oh, I got to be, I got to be like the winner of the match to be able to know how to do something better than somebody else. And that's not true. So I'm always looking and learning and, try and take that forward and pass it on to others. One thing, you talk about like training, you got the physical part about shooting the gun and everything else and, how to keep the weapon systems working and different things like that. But I think also in the law enforcement side is what I see it's lacking sometimes is the emotional side of it, right? Understanding how to be able to, control that visual patience, the understanding how to control, rarely for the most time that we go to a fight, it's third party, right? It's not personal to us. But it can get personal real quick. But how to be able to channel that and to overcome our fears, right? So we're utilizing our training, being proactive instead of reactive. And I think sometimes people think that's taboo to be able to talk about, to be able to help younger officers and stuff like that to be able to understand that. I think, man, if I tell somebody I'm scared, not kind of unsure of myself, that I'll be looked down on. And that's, we need to bridge that gap. And you'll find that teams that do bridge that gap, overall, their performance and their abilities are much higher than teams that don't.
Mm-hmm. You said something in there earlier when we were talking to the guys about how some people have the mindset and a lot of people don't. Some people are born with it and some people have to learn it.
Yeah, I think there's very few who are born with it. They're just natural, just absolutely love to go into dangerous situations and, can have composure and can operate within the chaos.
And how do you think one develops that?
You develop through learning, right? Through your mindset. Where you believe you can or you can't.
Because I've heard some people, some
real,
trainers
right?
recently say, "Oh, you don't need to talk about mindset; just go out and train."
No, it's completely wrong. The mind drives everything. The mind drives your heart. It drives your will. It drives your thought processes. Does all of that. That's the most important thing. And people think, look at our society. We're not raised up as kids with clubs beating each other and stabbing each other. Luckily, we don't,
Thankfully,
right? There was
yeah.
a day that, if you were big enough to pick up a club, you went to war, right? And I always tell the guys, like, man, thank God that we're using guns now. I'd hate to be out here with sticks hitting each other. But, it's a learned trait. Mm-hmm. I believe this with all my soul that the vast majority, 99.9% of people will fight. And they'll fight hard, they'll fight violently if they live long enough. Meaning that, we all have that point where we're no longer worried about being hurt. We're no longer worried about those things. I had an officer a long time ago that came to one of my classes. He'd been in multiple classes, but he'd been in a shooting. He's working narcotics at the time. and basically went to make a buy, and the guy got in the seat, passenger seat with him, pulled a gun on him. He's like, holy shit. He's like, he's going to shoot me. He's like, I'm fully convinced this dude's going to shoot me. He's trying to talk him out of it. And he said, I took a real deep breath, come bracing myself for the rounds, right? He's not going to miss. He said, as he draws his gun, he's shooting him as he's trying to exit the car door. He shoots him 4 or 5 times in the car seat right beside him. He's trying to exit. The suspect exits the car, still has a gun in his hand, moving down the backside of the car. He moves with him and shoots like 4 more times, hits him like 2 more times. Ends up sending the dude home to father, right? The guy had a BB gun. Officer didn't know that, right? But my question was initially, is like, why didn't he just shoot him in the head? You know, and it's easy to armchair quarterback something.
Sure.
But you got to find your heart, right? And the thing is he was more worried about being hurt, about something he couldn't stop, than solving the problem, right? There comes a point, it's like we have to find our heart. I always have this saying of, you know, or the thought process is, you know, if I pull somebody over, you know, Tony Blair talked about this to some extent a long time ago. It's like, if I pull somebody over, it has to be worth dying for. And if I can't accept that, then I probably should look really hard if I need to be in this job anymore. And here's the reason why I'm not advocating that we would just pull somebody over that wants to shoot us, right? We go, if we...
Time to go back to class.
That's crushing us, right? Crushing our mood.
I don't even know how to turn that off, but...
That's all right, no worries. But, you know, if we knew that was going to happen, which we don't, we'd go get all of our friends and we'd pick the right time and right place and we'd go handle that situation, right? But we don't. Yet we're willing to do that. And people don't think about that. And you got to be comfortable with having to be in a gunfight. You know, and we talk about that as like everybody has something they're willing to die for. And a lot of times it's family. Very, very seldom is it myself, right?
Yeah.
I see people talk about, or my fellow officer, right? And if you think about it, if that individual was willing to violently attack me as an officer because I'm giving him a citation and that individual's having a bad day, they wouldn't hesitate probably to kill your wife or rape your wife or your children or hurt somebody, right? Seriously. So it's that can be viewed as the window of opportunity that I get to handle the situation. That's what we're dying for. I'll fight for that, right? So in some way, you've got to be able to get there where you can switch that, where like a light switch, you can turn it on. And again, it's we have to be able to accept those things, and all of our training, all the things that we do out there helps us prepare for that and be able to come out the winner of it, right, on the winning side of that.
And, you know, I can remember being a young cop and kind of having a lot of those fears, you know, and I think that's one of the things that drove me to train.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
A lot of people wonder, well, how do you get over that, or how do you get that mindset that you're talking about? And I think it's a lot of it's from training so that you can be confident. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
You don't want to be that guy who's like the cornered cat who overreacts.
Yeah,
right?
100%. I mean, I was never the fastest, nor was I the best hand-to-hand. So I need to get really good with the gun.
Yeah.
And it was a very motivational, you know, it's like I can outthink people. I know I can do those things. I can, you know, the weapon makes me as strong as anybody else. And so, yeah, the training prepares us. So there's no way to circumvent that. And like you're saying, it gives us confidence. But even with all that confidence, what young officers have to understand, there's still that fear, because that makes us respectful, right, of what can happen, you know, and how we treat people. Some of the most baddest dudes I've seen in the world are some of the most polite people too, right? They're not poking their chest out there unless they have to, and then they pull it back when they need to. So, you know, knowing how to turn that switch on and off is really important, and it's just a learned skill. It's something you think about, you know, that you'll be able to do. And your training, you know, when something just immediately explodes right in front of you, you're going to react. It's those call-outs. It's the time that you're responding to a situation that you have those emotions to build up. That's like, hey, this is going down, right? This is real. It's a dangerous situation. It's like, that's okay. Our training will get us through it. And if I get sent home to father in the process, I'm okay with that. I mean, I truly am. And that's sometimes hard for people to be able to grasp or to reason with, but it's okay going home. I will do that 100-fold before I'll let evil just run rampant, right? I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah, you don't want to be like some of the stories we've heard where people standing outside the door for an hour before going in, or people, we've had officers with, cower down outside in hallways waiting and that kind of stuff.
And a lot of times that comes down to the training, right? I mean, there's this old saying, 100 people go to war, right? 90 are there to be killed. 10 will do the killing. 9 will do it on necessity, but 1 will be the hunter, and he will be the leader. He will lead the other 9.
Yeah.
So, and those 90 people are the ones who just don't train. They're just, for whatever reason, their heart's not in it. They need to go get a different job. Now, I don't look down on those people unless they stay, meaning that, God bless them that they're willing to take up that noble, effort to be able to protect others who can't protect themselves. But sometimes it's just not your cup of tea, and you need to be able to know when that is and have the courage to be like, maybe I need to switch careers, right? Maybe this, talking down about somebody who tried to be in law enforcement or the military or whatever, it's like they're trying, if they're doing it for the right reasons, right? They're trying to do that to help. And sometimes they don't know that it's not the right path for them until they're in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've known some guys who've had like one serious call or something where weapons was involved, something violent, and then after their first one, they're like, "I'm done."
Yeah,
and they either want to get out or move to a position where they don't have to respond to those types of calls.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think you see that across the country. That's a kind of a normal thing to be able to see, right?
And then you got other guys who've been involved in, they get involved in the shooting, and then a second one, third one, and they just keep.
They're comfortable with violence, right? And the main, when you say comfortable with violence, it's not like their heart is they don't want to allow evil men and women out there to rule the life, right?
Yeah.
And
I think they feel like they have that purpose, right? They're
absolutely,
going out and stopping
they have that
bad
purpose,
guys.
Right. If they have the purpose, they have the responsibility. It's something they just can't walk away from. And God bless them for being able to do that, right? That they have that fortitude to be able to do those things. And it's, some people have a hard time with, I talk about, I had to shoot somebody. It's like, well, they made you shoot them. Right? I mean, we're always behind the power curve.
Yeah, we have to react to what
we have
doing,
to react to everything, right? And we're trying to use all the lesser means we can and everything, but they made the choice. It's okay. Send them home and let them work it out on their side. Let Heavenly Father help them over there and get their life squared away. And, but I can't let them having that bad hair.
I love how you say that, especially, I got friends that are, a lot of guys have a baseline, a religious background, whatever that religion is. They have a background of, hey, I believe in a higher power or whatever. And when you say it that way, I think that kind of helps people, because some people that do have those backgrounds sometimes have a hard time going, I might have to take someone's life.
Yeah. Don't think for a second that Jesus Christ is not and Heavenly Father is not a warrior.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, one of the worst mistakes you can ever make is assuming that somebody who's nice and kind is weak.
Yeah.
It'll be the worst mistake you ever make, right? So, yeah, it's needed. I mean, it's.
So, what would you say
opposition
to people who have maybe that they're kind of struggling with that, going, man, I've been taught all my life to be nice. I've been taught to be, religious, believe in God, all this kind of stuff, but they maybe.
Then that's a great thing,
time.
right? That's a good thing to have those. But like I said before, everybody will fight if you live long enough. And if you feel like you have the ability to contribute to be able to stay in that chaos and be able to help others, there's no more noble thing in life to be able to do, right? There just isn't. And it's okay if you can't. It may be that you have some. There is a point where I think all this can have enough. Depending upon how much you see and you do in the temple, and there can be things where it's like, I'm just pegged out. I need to go to do something different. Now, if we were in a war or something like that where it's all hands on deck, like a real world war, not a conflict, small conflicts or something like that, it's like, then you have to stay there.
Yeah.
You have to man it up and keep going. but there are those opportunities where people's willing to step in, right, and do that. And I think that's just some of the things that we miss. It's okay to send somebody home. There's nothing wrong in that. They made the choice, not us, right? I know some bad people out there. I've seen bad people, and our police officers like, man, he is such a bad dude. And it's like, if it was my way for a day, he might go home today, right? Because you've seen it and done it. But thank God for our society, our laws, that we have and stuff like that. It's, we are the most civil society in the world, and it's due to our law enforcement who's willing to hold that line and keep that at bay.
Well, good. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Let's kind of switch gears a little bit and go into, we talked a little bit about your 3-gun. You won several. How many 3-gun championships have you won over the years,
Quite a few.
Like
I know I've won, I hate to say it, but I lose track of the major ones. I've won 3 3-gun world matches. I've won 5 3-gun national championships. Mike Voigt and I won 7 international long-range championships. I've won
and that's kind of like sniper type stuff.
Yeah,
long-range shooting.
It's not really sniper, long range. Yeah, it's not like sneaking through the brush and doing all that stuff. But it's long range out in Gillette, Wyoming. We were pretty dominant. I mean, Mike Voigt was just one hell of a shooter. Just one of my best friends I ever had. He's a mentor. Just I love him to death. But
he's since passed, right?
Yeah, good dude. And anyway. Doing that, was our team leader. We went back to Gainesville, Florida, where we won 2 back-to-back national SWAT team championships. Yeah. Where I met my lovely wife. She was the editor of Police Marksman at the time, and it wasn't until years later we came back together, and it's been the most best blessing I've ever had to be with her. She's so wonderful, my wife Connie. And so a bunch of them, and. Been pretty fortunate to be able to touch that stone.
Well, Connie's a pretty nice lady. I don't know what she's doing with you, but
yeah, she's a saint. Yeah, no doubt about that.
Did you pay her or what?
Still paying.
All right, and then but you also early on won like a USPSA pistol championship.
Yeah, I never won any national championships with that. I won a lot of sectional state matches. State matches is what I won, like Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana.
And then now you've kind of gotten away. Well, I think 3-gun's really not as popular as it used to be, right?
Oh man, I don't know. It has slowed down a little bit where we're at right here. Our local match, we have over here. I see them all the time at Parma, but I think it's exponentially got bigger.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you follow what's going over on the East Coast, back over there.
Yeah.
They've got, Zoo City and stuff like that, and they're hitting the 3-gun stuff hard, down in Arizona, down in Phoenix area, Mesa.
I just remember here in this area when I used to shoot 3-gun, the big match we used to shoot, besides driving down to Vegas for multi-gun nationals was MGM Ironman.
Oh, yeah, that thing was insane.
One of the biggest matches in the country, right? Here in Parma.
I won that 7 times, but that was in the earlier years. That damn little Daniel Horner grew up and got tall. Well, not really tall anymore, right? No, but I mean, I was fortunate to shoot that match, and it was insane. I mean, you shoot over 1,000 rounds.
Yeah,
that's not missing. I mean, you shoot multiple stages where you would be talking to the RO as you're shooting about what to do next, because as a pro level shooter, it would take us, 2.5, 3 minutes to shoot the course of fire.
There were so many targets.
You had a 5-minute timeout, right? And a lot of people couldn't get through. We had a law enforcement DOE sent us over there, and we had our shooting team there, and it was at noon on the first day, and we had law enforcement. We talked to a group of guys that were over there shooting. And at noon, they were packing up to go home. And I'm like, what's up? It's like, man, we're running out. Where I am. I'm like, dude, we can lend you some ammo, right? Because you're a department, right? And they're like, no, this is too much for us, right? But yeah, Mike Gibson, Travis Gibson, they put on a hell of a match. Always, I mean, you'd have people breaking their legs.
You used to
slide
be able
down a
to
slide, break their tail
go down a
bone.
slide, right? You'd go
Yeah.
up to the top chute, then go down a slide that was
Yeah.
probably like 2 stories high, and then
Yeah,
they had a
insane.
zip line where you go up like three stories
Yeah,
on a zip
how
line, shoot
nobody
targets.
shot their feet on that zip line still amazes me, right? But yeah, we had one guy one time shot him. Well, none of our guys, but a competitor shot his nice little 9mm hole through his front finger for an MP5. So yeah,
At a match?
yeah, at the match.
That was one of your guys?
Yeah, no,
okay,
no,
no, somebody
yeah,
else.
it's just a competitor. We help fix him up and get him on the way to the hospital. Right? It's like nice little perfect little 9mm hole though, and but yeah, that was a hell of a match. It was great. Mike, how that evolved and came into it. I mean, it truly tested your gear. It's hard to hold everything together for 3 minutes of shooting as fast as hard as you can with 3 different weapon systems.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, a lot of guns were going down back in that day.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's like they're pretty cool about it too. I guess you'd call an outlaw match is you can pick up your shotgun and hand it to somebody if their gun broke, right?
Yeah.
It's like, grab my gun, and somebody be running out there with a shotgun, hand it to them, as they keep going. And I know Kyle, I won the North American Championship, 3-gun championship, which was Kyle Lamb. He put on back there in Bragg, just out of Fort Bragg, and he put on some just stellar matches. I mean, a lot of military themed, moving vehicles and crawling through tunnels and shoot houses and stuff like that. And it was pretty crazy. I remember one time it rained back there real bad, and you had to run through this big, huge, like 10 yards long, 30 some odd feet long, mud and water. Guy fell down, came up, it's like guns down there in the water someplace. The RO's behind you, everything's safe. It's like, find your gun. All right, keep going. It's like, it's like big boy rules here. And so it's pretty cool where you'd see our, like if you had a USPSA, they don't tolerate that stuff. You'd be like, you're DQ'd and stuff like that. It's like, hey, the gun's still safe. Point
Yeah,
in
there
the
used to be a lot of
direction, pick it
outlaw
up.
matches back in the day.
Yeah.
So now you've kind of gotten away from 3-gun. I mean, you've pretty much done everything you could do in 3-gun, right?
Yeah, I mean, I always loved the long gun stuff. I wanted to get into the PRS when it first started, but there's too much going on in life. I couldn't, with the 3-gun. I stayed heavy with the 3-gun because it, directly ties over to my training with the military, law enforcement,
Sure.
stuff like that. So, and then, when the NRL Hunter stuff came along, I liked it because, you got 20 stages of fire. You're in the mountains, or up to 20 stages of fire. You're hiking in the mountains. Everything's on your back. Targets are unknown. You're on a time limit. It puts all those skills together with a more realistic rifle that you'd use for hunting or you use all the time. These heavy guns that people are packing.
So you think that'd be something good for our law enforcement sniper guys or
Oh
military
yeah,
snipers to get
absolutely. I think it'd be extremely humbling. I mean, I remember working with a local PD over on our side. There's SWAT guys that just went to some of the training they had back at Quantico, right, for the advanced sniper stuff. And they didn't shoot beyond 200 yards. So when I'm shooting like 600-700 yards, it's like, wow, that's a long ways. And it is, right? And nothing against their training. Law enforcement, you're working across the street, right?
Yeah, most of the time, yeah.
The environment, and, it's a different skill set to be able to do in that. But anytime you're on the gun and shooting those longer distances, will make you a much better shooter in close, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people from the military have been wanting to come over to the NRL Hunter stuff, but the problem is their guns weigh too much.
Yeah.
So they follow Idaho rules, hunting rules, is the open heavy guns can't weigh over 16 pounds, which all the platforms in the military are using right now. So they're trying to figure out how to bridge that gap. They could have a military division where the guns could go in excess of 16
That's
pounds.
one of the things that kind of...
Or they shoot skills division. It doesn't matter. They don't
Oh, yeah,
score,
you can do
right?
skills
They can do
division.
stuff like that.
That's one of the things that kind of, I guess, steered me away from doing PRS because I'm like, well, if I build a rifle, I'm pretty much going to only use it for PRS. I'm not going to use it for
damn
anything
thing's
else.
heavy, man. Picking up a 24-pound gun.
I like to be able to have a rifle that I can use for multiple things,
Yeah. I mean, I hated picking up belt-fed guns and stuff like that.
I've shot
Too
the
heavy.
first year that they had the NRL Hunter matches. I think I ended up shooting like 2 or 3 matches, and then the next year, same thing. I shot 2 or 3 matches, and then it's been a couple years since I've shot one. But I used a rifle that was about 14 pounds, and it's the same rifle that I was using for hunting elk.
Right.
So,
Yeah. My gun right now, I'm running the Seekins PH2, and man, shout out to Seekins, and they build just phenomenal rifles. And man, they're such the coolest people in the world.
Yeah.
Glenn Seekins, Matty Nelson, their whole staff up there. I mean, Glenn Seekins, multi-millionaire, always active in the company, one of the most humblest dudes. And you watch on Facebook and the Seekins, Facebook thread that they have.
Yeah.
And he's actually on there.
Yeah, I see him
talking to people.
responding
It's
to
like, hey,
customers.
send me a gun back, right? If it's not shooting good. I mean, they have a lifetime warranty, shooter guarantee, which means, it's going to shoot as good as what you want it to. If you don't like it, we'll buy the gun back from you, right?
Yeah.
I've seen guns that have been burned up in houses, and Glenn Seekins send them a brand new rifle. It truly is a lifetime warranty, and they are such stellar people.
Yeah, I own two. My wife owns one, and we have a couple that I have a PH2 and a 6.5 PRC. She has one in a 6.5 Creedmoor, and then I have another rifle in the 6.5 Creedmour as well. One's one of their original ones that they come out with the heavy barrel.
Okay.
And now they have the hit rifle, but this was like before the hit rifle came out.
Yeah, the Havoc series.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Anyway, I run their gas guns and everything, and they're great guns. I like it because it's the weight that I can run. It's 12 pounds, so it's something I'm comfortable packing in the mountains. My rifle, I took a 6.5 PRC, which is their slam rifle. It's scope suppressor on it, Surefire titanium suppressor, the 6.5 PRC, loophole 3 to 18. It was right at just under 9 pounds. I took to Africa, with, and that gun just hammered. I mean, it was just amazing how
So
lightweight
you
for backpack.
used a 6.5 PRC while you were in Africa?
Yeah, I
What
did.
kind of animals did you shoot with that?
It was cool, man. It was a dream hunt. In fact, when I would never went there, but I won the Grand Slam in 2023. And anyways, I would pick up a prize table hunt over there. And it's like, I actually called my wife. It's like, hey, are you okay if I go to Africa, right? Because I can pick this up. And she's like, yeah. And so anyway, that all came together. I shot a really nice kudu bull. I shot a sable, blue wildebeest, impala, warthog, a couple warthogs. The pigs are so cool, man. They're way cooler than people give credit. But just being able to see all the animals over there, I was able to get a nice zebra too. I mean, the zebra was hard.
Really?
Yeah, they were really hard hunting. And it's bushy country. I mean, it's like hunting on river bottoms here. They call it the bush, but animal takes 5 steps and you can't get a bullet to them, or you can't see them, or one animal blows out, they all blow out. So, I mean, what was the easy part, it wasn't mountainous, right? It's all flat.
Yeah, flat.
So that was pretty easy walking, but it was amazing. It was really cool to do.
So how well did your 6.5 PRC do on those animals? And
It
what type
hammered.
of ammo were you using?
I used 2 different bullets because I was over there. I shot the 143 ELDX, which performed great. The farthest shot I had was 200 yards because you just can't see that far. So it's kind of quick shooting, most of them around 90 yards, like 150 yards. And I also shot some with the 147 ELDMs. Mm-hmm. And I know, people talk about hunting bullets. I like the hunting bullets. I love the ELDX, but I also wanted to see the LDM because I wanted all that energy to go inside, not have anything exit the animal at all, just dump it all inside. And it hammered them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it performed really, really well. I shoot a little shorter barreled gun, so I'm getting probably about 75 feet more than what you get out of a Creedmoor kind of shooter, shorter barrel. But yeah, it was more than enough gun for what I was
used
doing.
the ELD match as well in a 147 grain, and I've shot like 6 elk with that.
Yeah,
it's done well every time.
Yeah, I had perfect conditions one time. I had a cow elk, and I'd been shooting a lot up in the mountains because I'd scout and then go shoot and stuff. And just a little over 900 yards, and one round I just dumped her. Yeah, it was amazing, the bull performance, right? If you put it in the right spot, and again, the conditions were absolutely perfect, and I'd just been shooting it just recently in the same area, and so it all worked out. And so I thought, I'll try this at that distance, no problem.
So how long were you there for?
We were actually hunted for 5 days. It took us, basically it takes you 2 days to get there and 2 days to get back. but it was cool. Yeah, it was really cool to be able to
Did
go.
Connie
and
get to
see
shoot
her.
anything over there?
Actually, she did. She
Yeah.
shot an impala.
Yeah, come here,
nice
Connie.
ram.
Tell us
Yeah.
about your hunt a little bit.
Well,
Slide your chair over. I just had to put her on the spot because she's here and kind of watching what we're doing here.
so Benny talked me into it. We went, we had Neil Becker, Red Sand Safari is where we went, and they were going to donate the animals' meat to the local church. So they set me up and had me on a tripod, and Benny kept saying, shoot, shoot. Well, he told me to shoot,
Where two colors come together on the shoulder.
where the two colors come together on the shoulder. So I thought he meant exactly in that place. And I had to wait until I got there, but
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, what is it that you shot?
An impala.
Yeah,
right?
impala ram. Yeah, really nice. It was really cool. She shot it, and literally she dotted it right on the mark.
Exactly where he
I forgot
told
to
me.
tell her,
That's
like,
awesome.
within 3 inches of that area will be just
Yeah,
fine,
yeah.
right? Because I'm like, shoot. But
She was
anyway,
trying to get it right.
yeah,
exactly.
perfectly,
Right.
yeah. And yeah, she made a
Perfectionist.
really good shot on it, and it's cool because she's a little emotional. She's worried about wounding the animal.
started crying.
Started crying. It
My
was
daughter,
cute,
my
yeah,
daughter does
yeah.
the same thing when
Yeah,
she
it's
shoots
great.
an elk,
Yeah,
but it'll only last like 3 seconds. My
yeah,
daughter.
yeah. It's same
Yeah.
thing.
And
And
then she's like, "Let's
I
go
got
shoot
over
another
it.
one."
which was kind of cool, right? We go up there and we're looking at this beautiful ram, and
Yeah.
she's like, "We're mounting that." I'm like, "Yeah, we're gonna mount that. That's for sure."
That's awesome. I think a lot of our listeners are going to want to know, how do you get your wife to go hunting with you?
Oh, she grew up a little bit hunting, and yeah, she loves outdoors. She loves animals, and she doesn't have a problem shooting. She just wants to make sure she's making a good ethical shot, which we all should, right? We
Sure.
should all be concerned
Yeah.
about. But yeah, I think we're desensitized too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
People go to the store and get their nice packaged meat and like no blood and all this other stuff. It's like, and then they look down and think, oh, that's gross that you go out. And it's like, well, who in the hell how do you think yours is getting here,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
So we lost that art, that way of life, and it's something I think that people should be more aware of. They had to go out and do it. Like my wife, like she loves animals. I mean, literally, she's like Snow White out back when she starts singing all the birds and stuff come.
And you say, I love animals too.
Yeah.
They're tasty.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's like funny. Out back, I'm out in the back of our place, and I've been out there for like 30 minutes. There's nothing around, zero.
Yeah.
She works out, comes outside, and she's always singing to the cats or the chickens and stuff. And within 5 minutes, we had 50 or 60 birds there. Like all kinds of birds and everything. They just came out as soon as they heard her, right? It's like, here's somebody's going to come feed us and take
awesome.
care of us. Yeah. But yeah, I think hunting's important for people not to look down on it, and hunt. And nature's cruel, man.
Yeah.
And people don't realize it. You watch, I always talk about, man, if I'm going to get eaten alive in the forest, I want it to be by a mountain lion, because he's going to kill you, right? He's going to sever your neck. He's going to, kill you. Where a bear, a wolf, coyote, they're just going to stand on you and eat you alive, right? And when you eventually die, you die, and they're just going to keep eating.
Well, I raised my kids hunting. My son, he's shot some deer, he's shot some antelope, and this year, same with my daughters. We gone up, shot some whitetail together, and this year she shot her
She
first
shot that
elk.
Yeah, that was awesome.
560 yards with the 6.5 PRC, the 147 grain.
Crushed that thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good time. And she loves it. She just loves being outdoors, and
Yeah.
so she definitely knows where her meat comes from. So
Yeah.
of course she's not a young kid anymore. She's 27 and married. So
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, she's still a kid.
yeah,
Yeah.
to me she's still a kid. Yeah.
There's a lot of little boy in me. It just takes, certain things to bring it out. But
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
I don't think we ever lose that.
Yeah, it's great, the father-daughter thing, going out, hanging out in the mountains. And
Yeah, it
a
really
good time.
is.
So let's go back real quick just to the NRL Hunter Series. So tell us how kind of that works. I know you won the Grand Slam, which is
Yeah.
like the national championship, right?
Correct, yeah.
And you won that in the stock division or the
I went factory. They call it factories. Yeah,
Call it
so
factory.
it breaks down in three groups. Like factory is they have different manufacturers that meet the criteria, but there's no modifications. You can't make any internal modifications. You can't, you got to be able to buy it off the shelf. The weight limit is 12 pounds.
Can you modify anything on the outside? Can you
No.
like muzzle brakes or nothing?
Well, if it comes with a muzzle brake, you have to use it. If it comes with a threaded barrel, like a capped barrel,
Yeah.
then you put any muzzle brake on you want.
Okay.
But you can't put any, like you can put a sling on it if you want or something like that.
Can you run a suppressor if you want? Or?
You can, yeah.
You can,
It's just got to make the weight. That's what's hard is making the weight for all that stuff. So, it's 12 pounds factory configuration. You can't make any internal modifications. And that's with your weight of your bipod and your magazine out. And, my Seekins PH2 comes in with all my stuff on it. If I run my double pull, it's like 11.4 pounds. And then if I run the triple pull, I'm right at 12 pounds. And then they have what's called open light. So it's basically a custom rifle, right? Backing up on the factory stuff, as far as caliber, you can shoot a 6mm bullet or bigger. And the power factor section doesn't apply to factory. It's just got to be the length of like a 243 round, 2.7 inches. So you can't shoot these little short PRS rounds and stuff like that. However, if you tie, your tie is broken by power factor, which is basically speed of the bullet times
And
the weight.
do you run factory ammo or you reload your
No,
own?
I've done both, but I reload. I really like the Hornady A-tips, is consistency of them.
Do you
So
see a big difference in factory versus reloading custom ammo?
you see a little bit more consistency. The problem you have with some of you can tune things, right? So Hornady does not manufacture the 153A tip for the 6.5 Creedmoor, so you have to hand load that. They do the 147s. The only problem I've ever seen with factory ammunition across the board any place is if you get what's called cold weld. So basically it means you don't know how long the ammunition's been loaded. So the bonding between the bullet and the inside of the case can get sticky. It's called cold weld, and it will stick, which think of holding a firecracker, right?
Sure.
It'll loosen your hand or tight. The tighter that is around the bullet will change the harmonics in the barrel when the bullet's exiting and also how fast the bullet's flying. So that can bite you sometimes, right, out there. But yeah, I've shot Hornady factory ammunition that had better SDs or as good as SDs as my hand load. So it's you can definitely do that, absolutely. The open light is just a custom gun, 12 pounds. And then you have open heavy, which is most of the guns fall in that because they weigh over 12 pounds with everything on them. So you can go up to 16 pounds with that custom gun, anything you want. As long as it has to meet a power factor. So your open light and open heavy have to make a 380,000 power factor. And again, it's just bullet weight times speed. So you get a, good, you can't make it with 6mm, you have to shoot a 6.5 or bigger diameter bullet.
And then so tell us real quick what a course of fire, say you get there, you're with your squad of guys, the RO, range officer comes down, calls your name, and then what happens from there?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So you have a sign, they have different engagements, but they'll have a picture of the target you're trying to look at, we're trying to find, and that, it may be like a deer, so it's got like a little bit of a shoulder and the head with the horns and stuff like that. But that target dimension is supposed to be the same diameter or same dimensions as the vitals of that animal. So even though it's got a head, it's still small, right? Like the lungs or something like that. In fact, in Cody, Wyoming, they actually had elk lungs out there that we shot. It's like really cool. But so they'll have that. You'll either have one target. If you have one target, that means you'll move 4 different positions when you find it. If you have 2 targets, that means you'll shoot 2 positions. You'll engage each target, then move, engage them again. And if you have 4 targets, you'll be in one position. You have to shoot all 4 targets.
And you just have to hit it one time, and then you get one extra shot?
So the way it goes is you have 4 minutes. It's a blind stage. You run up there. They have a stake in the ground and 2 stakes in the front. And that gives you your field of view for finding your targets, parameters where the targets are at. So you have to find your targets and engage them in the correct order, which sometimes you won't find a target. It's just, it can be that difficult. But anyway, they'll have marked locations where you have to shoot in proximity or on something. They'll mark it where you're going to shoot from. You have 2 shots to engage a target. First round impact is 2 points. Second round impact is 1 point. And then after that, it's just a 0, right? If you shoot them out of order, it's a 0. So you have to shoot them in the correct order. So you got 4 minutes to do that, it's amazing how fast 4 minutes goes away. And there is a skill to finding things, not only you find them through your binoculars, which is the best way to be able to find them, But now you move to your shooting position. Now you're looking through your scope. Sometimes it's real hard. You forget your reference. You get up there, it's like, great, can't find the target, right? So there's some humbling moments, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
After you get done with that, you get done shooting, then you pack all your stuff up and you just take off walking. So you're never with the guys behind you shooting. Now sometimes you've shot them before where there's a little holding area, they'll get kind of backed up and, but it's all on your own. You don't know what that guy is doing in front of you. You have to guess the wind on, all that stuff is on the fly, right? Which is in a hunting configuration or in a, fighting, right? It's going to happen quick, right? You got to be able to think and do it on your feet, find the good shooting solution, good problem, make sure all your data's on. And what I find is a lot of people don't know how to true their rifles real well, so then they're guessing was that me? Did I, influence the gun when I'm shooting high, or is that just the conditions, or did I have wind lift out there on the face of that mountain that kind of did that to me? Yeah. It's kind of hard to solve those problems.
And so when you talk about truing, you're talking about what?
So I'm trying to true my my ballistic data to what the gun's actually performing. So I do that with 4DOF Hornady, which I really like running, and then I run that into my binoculars to make sure my binos that have the ballistic software in there marry up. And so it's always monitoring the environment and everything. But if you don't put those numbers right, garbage in, garbage out. And I really like the 4DOF. If you look at their stuff, they call it's their angle of fire. And it basically just tells you, it gets you the correct angle from where the bullet exits the barrel to where your reticles intersect at whatever distance you're zeroing out. Like 100 yards, if my scope is 2.5 inches high, so it has to be a certain angle to be able to intersect that at 100 yards.
You need to learn the software.
Yeah, you do. And Hornady has some great videos out there that walk you through it, and it's free. I mean, it is the most accurate that I've used. Even more, I found it easier to use and more convenient to use than Applied Ballistics. Now, Applied Ballistics came out with some new stuff here just recently that I haven't checked into. Applied Ballistics is legit. But what I like about the 4DOF system and stuff like that is it's easy to be on your phone and playing with it to check out the environment and see what it's doing to you downrange. Yeah. So it gives you a broader knowledge base, right? You can say, if the wind's coming this way, what would it do to my bullet? How important is it to push speed versus getting a bullet with a higher BC and stuff like that.
Yeah. And also, I know you went up to a place called Hat Creek, right? Yeah. Tell us about that.
Hat Creek is based out of Riggins. Brian Morgan and Misty, who are the owners, and Brian is, he runs it. They're just stellar people. Probably the best long-range shooter, knowledge, experience-wise, I've ever come across in my life.
The venue's awesome. I was lucky enough to go to that. I don't know, 4 years ago, three to 4 years ago. I was lucky enough to get into a class, and it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, just God, country, American people, patriots. I mean, they train some of the most elite units in the world, not just the U.S. but in the world, and they come here and the courses that they put on. I've been fortunate enough that Brian's brought me on to let me, work with him on some classes and stuff. And really, it's like I'm playing happy, pick up heavy targets and move them around for him, right? He's just a wealth of knowledge, and he's such a good dude. Him and his wife. I mean, the last group he's there with, this bunch of ninjas. They said it well. It's a home away. It's another home away from home. The environment that they have there, and the terrain that they use, and how he teaches, his ability to be able to translate his knowledge and experience over to the student is phenomenal. And they have a great working staff. They've got some guys up there that are just, the pinnacle within their career within the military and law enforcement that he's brought into it to help teach. So, yeah, it's a great place, man. If you ever watch, from a law enforcement civilian side of the house, they'll have a couple open classes throughout the year, and they feel like in a couple days. Yeah. But you stay right there at his facility. Cherry trees, pear trees, apple trees. I'm like, this is crazy, right? It's like, it is truly phenomenal. It's just beautiful. Yeah. And you have that cabinet there. I know, man, I couldn't believe that place. I mean, that thing was, You know, when I got up there too, I'm like, man, somebody drove a concrete truck up this road. Just
Up
like,
to our place
yeah,
up there, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, Hat Creek, it is the place to go,
Yeah.
especially for, you know, you're in the mountains, not uncommon to shoot 50, 60 mile an hour winds. You know, and people say, well, you know, well, what if you're in a situation where you can't, right? At least you know the parameters and what you can and cannot do. And you're going to miss. You're going to miss up there, right?
Yeah.
But you learn from that, and it's just a wealth of knowledge.
Well, that's what I remember, you know, them guys talking when I was going through the classes, just like, hey, we don't expect first round hits. We want you to be able to see your misses in your reticle so you can make those corrections.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And, you know, that's one of the hard part about the long range game is like you get guys that are just phenomenal at doing that. You know, they'll see exactly where it impacts on target and they make corrections from there. But they say it's okay to miss once, but you better not miss twice, right? Because you should be able to see your impact and adjust for it. And that's an art. It really, truly is, how to stay on the gun and read that, do that. And they do a great job of instructing that and be able to teach it. And the country up there is just phenomenal, which you know. I mean, you live up there, and, you know, that's true God country up there. And,
Yeah, it's awesome.
yeah, pretty amazing.
Awesome. All right, Benny, is there anything else you want to say to the guys? You know, I'm sure a lot of people who are not law enforcement listen in, but, you know, I think our target audience here is law enforcement guys that work the streets here in the U.S. and what kind of things you have to say for them?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you. And God bless you and your families. There's never been a time more that we need you to hold the line. You know, you have such scrutiny from politicians and our society, and I'd say it, but liberals and, you know, far left, far right, you know, to get out of line. Thank you for what you do, right? We will fold from within. The country's not going to take us over. There's nothing more noble than the job that you're doing, the sacrifices that you're making, and it's important. And there are many, many Americans out there who absolutely kneel down every night and keep you in their prayers. So, you know, train hard. Don't think too small. Don't underestimate the power that you have out there, the influence you're doing for good and for right. We need you, and we need you to groom others to take your place and make them understand the nobleness of the job. It doesn't mean that you're above other people. It just means that some of the highest people with the most power to influence are the ones who serve the most. And, you know, I appreciate what you do. Just don't underestimate who you are and the impact that you make in this world, and for generations to come, with the families you help and the people you help who can't help themselves or get caught in a predicament. And show kindness when you can, and stand firm when you have to. And hats off to you. And, you know, I appreciate you having this opportunity. I knew we was going to do this. We was going to do this back in August when we had the 40-year anniversary, right? SRT back home. And
yeah, that was a good time too, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great time. But yeah, it's a privilege to be on here. I'd love to. Yeah, I'd like to come back and maybe we'll just dive into one or two topics. Yeah, a little deeper. I'd like to get more into spend some time talking about the fighting mindset, the emotions.
Oh, let's do that. That'd be great.
Doing some of that, and some of how that thought process rolls into shooting, and your tactics and how to improve those things and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Everything's powered behind that, and believe in yourself. And it's okay to lean. It's okay to call somebody in the middle of the night. Don't ever let darkness take you over, man. You were forced to do things. You're forced to see bad things in life. But stay close to your brothers and sisters out there, and they'll help you get through it and continue to push on.
Well, thanks, Benny. I appreciate that. That's one of the reasons I started the podcast. Is now after retiring, I just wanted to be able to keep pushing the information out and letting the guys out, hoping while they're riding around their patrol cars at night, they can turn on this podcast and learn a couple of nuggets here and there that will help them out. So
yeah, cool. I think it's a great thing to do, and you have a lot of knowledge and experience, and you've had some great people on here, and so yeah, keep doing it and keep pushing it out, and
Yeah, and I appreciate you. You know, that's one of the things that, it's like I was telling the guys there earlier, is, you know, being a trainer as long as I was in the law enforcement community, a lot of the things I taught, especially when it comes to the carbine classes, stuff that I was just passing on that I learned from you, and a lot of the guys don't even realize where I got that information. And it was nice that you were able to go in and meet some of the guys today. So
Yeah,
you've made a big difference in the law enforcement community, big difference.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Just giving back to what was given to me.
All right, thanks a lot, Benny. We'll get you back in here soon.
Okay, adios.
All right, thanks.